Yo, 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 and welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. My name is Sanji. With me is Matthew. How you doing, boy?
Doing good, thank you. Yeah, excited to be on the podcast.
I'm more excited to finally have a proper Scouse accent on our podcast. So, what brings you to the States? Because you're currently recording in EST time zone. I'm in the British time zone. I mean, we could save it for the fan introduction, right? So maybe we should, right? But before we get into the fan introduction, I want to quickly do our social plugs. I need to do my job a little bit because Ross isn't here. So if you're listening to this podcast, thank you so much. Welcome. We cover everything Fantrax related. So you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at BanterB. We're on Discord as well. Our Draft PL channel is 6585, which I still need to build out. I've had some requests about that. So we'll maybe get working on that this season. You can find us on Reddit as well, u/banter_boys. And we share all our podcasts on anchor.fm and sometimes YouTube, depending on my level of laziness. But you can find us basically on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, and more. But yeah, that's it. And without further ado, let me do fan introduction. So, tell us your name, your Twitter handle, the club that you're going to be representing tonight, where you're from, and what do you do? A little tidbit about yourself.
So, my name is Matty. My Twitter handle is at mstevo91. And the club I'm going to be representing tonight is, of course, Everton. I am originally from just outside of Liverpool, grew up as an Everton fan. My granddad supported Everton and my dad, so it's kind of like a family thing. But now I live in Michigan, in the United States.
Yeah, how did that happen? Like, why'd you jump across the pond?
So I used to come out here to work at a summer day camp during the summers, and I met my wife out here. We did long distance for a few years, and then got married, so ended up over here.
What? And you're missing out on all the football. Does she know that she eventually has to move back to the UK then?
It's actually shown more on the TV here. They show every single game, so it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely a benefit. I remember when I first moved to the UK and people were like, yeah, we don't show the 3 p.m. games. I was like, what the fuck? What is this madness? Like, we're in the country that the game is being played and you're not advertising it. That's
not allowed to
silly.
show it, yeah. It's nuts.
Yeah,
but
that is silly. Well, I mean, that's also a good reason to kind of stay out there. And you probably have better weather than the UK on the average day, right?
A little bit, yeah. It's a little bit. Summers are a little bit warmer. Winters are a little bit colder. So it evens out. So,
do you get snow where you are?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like that versus like the cold, wet UK's?
The snow's not bad at first. Gets a bit boring after a while, I guess. Like it just cancels plans rather than becomes anything useful. So
for sure,
we get quite a bit of it.
So Ross, our other like co-host out here, he lives in Canada, and every time winter hits, he's always starting the podcast about how depressing winter is because they get a fuck ton of snow, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They probably can't even get out of the house.
Exactly. All right. So listeners, if you're new to this segment, basically what we've been doing for the preseason is interviewing a fan from every club in the Premier League, but they also play fan tracks, right? So we'll give you a breakdown of how we're going to be doing this episode. We typically do general discussion where we talk about the impact of any new manager or ownership, which I think in this case is pretty fucking relevant. New club, the previous season performance, the new season's expectations, which is going to be very exciting to hear from an Everton perspective. Old assets versus new assets, expected formation such as starting 11, the impact of the 5 subs, that fucking World Cup, and also we'll definitely dig into the draft side of things. We'll find out Matthew's first pick from Everton, his next 3 picks, and at least one hidden gem, and then round things off with his opinion on how he does his trades. Let's get started. So, Frank Lampard. I mean, I'm a Chelsea fan, right? So I'm like, when I first started like hearing about Chelsea and stuff, I constantly heard about, oh, Frank Lampard. And the thing is, we have a totally different experience when you grew up outside of England being introduced to football, right? We kind of predominantly learn about, like, the European clubs, that sort of thing. So when I heard Frank Lampard was coming back into the EPL, I was excited. Like, he's like one of my favorite players from Chelsea, right? What are your thoughts about him? Like, how has he done so far? I mean, obviously, mission accomplished. He kept you in the league, right? But do you think that he can kind of kick on from here? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I think he's still got a lot to learn as a manager. Obviously, he's still pretty early on in his managerial career. He came in last year and tried to implement a style of football of playing out from the back, doing it his way. He quickly realised, I think, that we don't have the players to do that.
Yeah.
And credit to him, he wasn't stubborn. He changed his ways, and he basically did what he what he could, and what he had to do to keep us in the league, which was in the end was successful. I think he's going to want to at some point go back to that style of play that he prefers, that he tried to implement when he first came in. So that'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if that is like affecting our summer transfers with the players we bring in, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think he speaks well, Lampard. He comes across as as a decent guy. So the jury is still out a little bit on him. We'll have to see how the season goes. He has the full backing of the support. I've not seen the support kind of this united over a manager maybe since Moyes or the early days of Roberto Martinez. So that's a positive, especially after the manager before Lampard. So yeah, no, it's early days. There's ambition there, but there's also a bit of caution.
Yeah. I mean, anything is better than Rafa Benitez, right? I mean, quick 2 cents about what that was like. That must have been painful, right?
Rafa, yeah, he wasn't anyone's first choice, I don't think. Not even the people who appointed him. He can't have been their first choice.
Yeah.
He came in and he's automatically going to get the backing of the fans because we want what's best for the club at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But he was always starting off on the back foot. He was always a couple of defeats away from impending doom, I feel. And,
yeah,
he didn't help himself. Injuries kind of, came into. But, yeah, he should have been sacked a few months before he eventually was, I feel like. So, yeah, it's just, I mean, it made it even worse going from Carlo Ancelotti to Benitez.
Yeah.
Too. So,
yeah. I mean, even the way Carlo left, it was kind of a sour taste in the mouth. Like, don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, he's doing what's best for his own life and his own career, right? And listen, Carlo was I was so excited to see Carlo back in the league, especially at a club like Everton. Like, I remember he had such like swaggerific moments. Like when you guys had scored a goal or something, he was like sipping a cup of tea or something like that. And he just kept sipping it. Like there was this suaveness about him that it would have been very, very exciting to see where that could have gone.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. It was. He attracted big names to James Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Those types of players. Richarlison was happy to stay and play under him.
Yeah.
But I mean, when Real Madrid come knocking, I think I'd have even left Everton to go to Real Madrid. So I can't blame him. I would have liked him to stay, but it just shows they ended up winning the Champions League. So it's and we ended up just about staying up. So the gulf between the two clubs is enormous.
For sure. Quick thoughts about your owner, Moshiri, Bill Kenwright, chairman. As a fan, like, how do you feel about these guys running the club?
I think Moshiri is, he's come in. He was the money we were looking for. The days under Moyes and all that kind of stuff. We were spending small amounts of money, utilising the loan market. So it was appreciated at first. The recruitment was poor, to say the least. Spending X amount of money, overspending X amount of money, on players who had no sell-on value, your Gylfi Sigurdssons, your Theo Walcotts, your Yannick Bolassis, all good players probably on the day, but all late 20s, approaching the 30s. I think we ended up, for those 3 players, we ended up losing them for nothing. Eventually, got no transfer fees for them. We probably spent close to 100 million for those 3 players, which is outrageous, to be honest. So, Mashiri's come in. We'd like probably some more communication between him and the fans. Bill Kenwright, I think he is just scared of letting go. He wants his finger in the Everton pie.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to relinquish that, even though he, financially probably doesn't offer much to the board now. I think we're one of the most poorly ran clubs in the Premier League. So they need to let the footballing people get down to the jobs. Kevin Thelwell, etc. Just, and Lampard, let them handle the football side of things. And hopefully Mashiri stays out of transfers.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, let's move on now to club's previous season performance versus the new season's expectations, right? So Lampard came in, you guys were in 16th place, 4 points above the relegation zone, right? Eventually he guides you guys to safety, but you still ended up finishing the season in 16th place, right? Having scored only 43 goals and conceding 66 of them, which is a massive, massive concern, right? Because that was, I think, the 17th, maybe, is it 16th worst? Maybe conceded goals as well. But it's definitely a great area of concern. And also your goal scored is also in the bottom half of the table, maybe even bottom quarter. But what were your thoughts on the season? Were you just happy to finally be safe in that sense, after winning 3-2 versus Crystal Palace, where I'm sure you would have watched that game?
Absolutely, yeah. I watched it whilst working from home, essentially.
Were you even working?
Well, yeah, I don't want to say, I don't know who's listening, so...
Fair enough.
But the overall feeling after last season was just relief, really.
Yeah.
I feel like the pitch invasion, we weren't celebrating staying in the Premier League. It was just sheer relief.
Yeah.
Because I think financially, we're not in the best position with FFP. Yeah. If we had been relegated from the Premier League, it would have got even worse. We've already lost one big asset this summer. It would have been all of them. All of our best players would have probably been sold. So, it was relief. And, Lampard came in and we were 16th and we ended up finishing 16th. So it kind of, I think it can get lost a little bit in that translation where people are saying, did Lampard actually do a good job? I think if Benitez would have stayed in charge, we wouldn't have stayed up. Yeah. I think simply because such a gap between the fans and the manager.
Yeah.
Whereas you saw towards the end of the season with the coach welcomings and the atmosphere, especially at Leicester away, was second to none. The fans kept the team up last year. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd never have seen that under Benitez. So it was worth bringing in Lampard for that, I guess. Second of all, I feel like, the goals, the goal stat for and against, 43 goals, obviously not great. Big portion that I think was down to Dominic Calvert-Lewin not playing for most of the season.
100%.
He came back. Benitez rushed him back. I feel like he probably knew he was, close to getting the boot. So I think he rushed Calvert-Lewin back because the Rondon's not a decent backup. Rushed him back and it didn't get much match fitness. You could tell he wasn't a patch the player he was the season before. I feel like towards the end of the season he started to gain that fitness back a little bit. He got on the score sheet a couple of times. So, injuries played a big part in that. Defensively, I think just lack of quality, I feel. Seamus Coleman, been a great servant for the club, should have been replaced about 3 years ago, probably knows that himself.
Yeah.
So, still playing week in, week out, captain of the club.
Yeah.
At the centre-backs, our best centre-back is Yerry Mina, in my opinion. the guy can't stay fit. Plays 1 game, misses 4.
Yeah.
And then the other ones, Michael Keane, not good enough, I guess.
Yeah.
Holgate the same. Ben Godfrey is, a little better, but again, suffered with injuries.
Yeah.
And then the left back situation. So, we of course had Luca Dean.
Yeah.
Who has been, one of the better players over the last few years, I feel. And then we sold him because he didn't get along with the manager, but then sacked the manager 3 days later. So, I mean, just goes back to the point about how poorly ran the club is.
Yeah.
And then, but we brought in Mikalenko, who's a bit raw. Obviously, coming in at a difficult time for the club because we're basically not in a good run of form at the wrong end of the table, and also probably not an easy time for him with the stuff that was going on in the Ukraine. So, again, I feel like he bedded in more towards the end of the season. Scored a great goal at Leicester. Was kind of finding his feet a little bit. So. I just think the defence needs a bit of work. I'm hoping that Lampard can kind of fill a few holes there this summer and maybe shift some of the deadwood like Keane or Holgate maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's kind of now go into new season expectations, right? Before we jump into all the assets. So one of the things that passing around, like maybe not just football community, but like fantasy gaming community, was the recent performance by Everton versus Minnesota United. A team out in the States. You guys lost 4-0, and everyone was kind of going wild about it. Oh God, what the fuck is happening? Everton's losing 4-0. So like having seen that, and I mean, don't get me wrong, you guys got a win versus Blackpool in your most recent game as well, right? 4-2.
Yes,
but what is your expectations for next season? Is it literally, again, just stay up and fix things moving forward? Or are you expecting them to kick on? Because we can kind of maybe talk about some of the assets as well moving forward, because you've signed 3 decent players, I want to say, in this window so far, right? So where do you expect Everton is going to go now?
I think expectations for this season, I don't think too much can be expected. I think that's where we've gone wrong in the past, I feel, with, we're definitely a top 7 side, top 6 side. I think, honestly, this year, I'd snap your hand off for top 10, if I'm honest. I think if we get that, I think that'll be a good achievement, which is, still not a great achievement, but compared to last season, I think we'll probably finish somewhere between 10th and 14th, if I had to make a guess.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
We've lost Richarlison, who was, I think, was our best player, and we have brought some new signings in. Whether Richarlison did score, he was double figures goals every season. That's something we're gonna have to replace, or someone's gonna have to step up to the plate and fill that gap. But yeah, with the Minnesota United thing too, so. We played Arsenal the weekend before, and Lampard played different system. He played the 5 at the back with the wing backs, and then against Minnesota, he went to a 4 at the back. So, the MLS is definitely nowhere near quality wise of the Premier League. Getting beat to them 4, if we'd have lost the game and it would have been close, it would have been okay with that. They're in the middle of the season, match fitnesses, they're all match fit. It was our second game. To lose in the way we did, though, with a strong team out, was kind of embarrassing, to be honest. And I'm wondering if that'll change Lampard's mind when it comes to his are we going to set us up this season formation wise?
Yeah. So how did you guys shape up versus Blackpool then? Was it back to a back 5 then?
He went back to a back 5 against Blackpool. Yeah. He played, I believe it was Patterson, right wing back, Mina, Godfrey, and I want to say maybe Holgate, I'm not too sure, but then Mikalenko at left wing back.
Okay.
So he went back to the 5, and when we played Arsenal, we played the 5. We didn't really have much going forward, but again, Arsenal are a superior team, so...
Yeah, they looked amazing and they kicked our ass 4-0, so...
Right, we're not expecting much of the ball against them. So, he went back to the 5 against Blackpool, still conceded pretty poor goals, to be honest. Another goal from a set piece.
Yeah.
So again, definitely stuff that needs to be addressed before the season starts in just over a week's time.
Okay, let's dive in then into the assets, right? I kind of want to go as far back as January 2022. And I want to go through maybe the outs, obviously talk about the ins, but just to say, I'll maybe only talk about the big names on the outs, right? The ones that the fans might recognize, and just have a quick say, how much of a loss you think it might be. Obviously Luca Dean, can't speak highly enough of this guy, right? French international on most set pieces, fantastic corner kick taker. I mean, fantastic Trax asset as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You must be gutted to see him have left the club, right?
It was disappointing because I think everyone knew at the time the manager wasn't going to be around much longer either, and that was basically his reason for going.
Yeah.
His form had dipped a little bit this past season, maybe towards the end of last season. But I think he was a victim of his own success, really. He set such high standards previous, and the transition from Leighton Baines, who was superb for us, to him was kind of seamless. So that's as big a compliment as I can pay him.
Yeah.
But I thought, in this five at the back now, with playing him as a left wing back, I think he'd have thrived there. His delivery into the box is very good, and it's a kind of disappointing to see him leave, but the money we got for him we kind of used to sign a couple of new fullbacks who are a little bit younger and probably not on as much wages. So
for sure. What about Gabaman? I think I'm pronouncing that right? Jean-Philippe Gabaman. He never really got a proper run because his time has been so injury ridden, right? He went off to loan at CSK Moscow. Is he now back at the club, and you expecting him to play this season?
He's back at the club now. I think he signed. He's been with us now for probably at least 3 years. I think he's played. There's some kind of crazy stat, like he's played 5 games for Everton, and each one has been under a different manager.
That is
something
mental.
Like that. He's very injury prone. He had a bad injury himself. I think he did something similar to what Carver Lewin did last year when he first signed for us. It was a thigh problem, I believe, and again since then he's just kind of everything. Every injury you name, he's probably had it. I think he missed a game last year because his wisdom teeth were coming through. Or he had them removed or something, and that's like the truth. I'm not like kind of making that up. So it's just he's a big guy. He might be perfect for that number 6 role that Lampard's trying to get a player in for.
Yeah.
Whether he's up to speed at the Premier League, I don't know. He went to CSK Moscow and did okay.
Yeah.
But again, CSK Moscow playing it week in, week out in the Russian league. I don't know if that's going to be good comparison for playing in the Premier League week in, week out. So if he can stay fit, he'll be an option, and he might be able to offer us something that none of the other centre midfielders can. So we'll have to see. Hopefully he stays fit and we can see a bit more of him this year.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's now talk about the ins that you had in that January window. There are a couple of loan ones that I'll start with. El Ghazi that came in from Aston Villa and Donny van der Beek that came in from Manchester United. Neither really had an impact as well. Maybe Donny had a better impact, I'd say, than El Ghazi, right? But are you...
El Ghazi was...
Yeah, just non-existent.
No, like he was a joke. That was some kind of joke. Mashiri's friends with his agent or something, and it was almost like Aston Villa couldn't afford to pay Luca Dean's wages, so we took El Ghazi off them to free up some money.
Right. Okay.
I don't think he started one game. He maybe came off the bench twice. He wasn't even on the bench some of the games.
Yeah.
So that was a completely pointless signing. Yeah. Van der Beek came in, looked good early on. He was positive, good energy in the middle of the field, but then again suffered an injury.
Yeah.
Missed the final. Yeah. I think 5 of the last 6 games. Scored in the last game of the season, of course, but not enough to again, for us to kind of pursue signing him, and plus United might be looking at using him a bit more this year with Ten Hag.
Yeah, and the Ajax 2.0.
yeah, he'll be thriving.
Yeah. Okay, let's now move on to more permanent signings. Dele Alli coming in from Spurs. Again, I want to say another player that didn't really truly have a proper impact on the club, but I mean, he was part of that famous 3-2 win over Crystal Palace, right? He came on as a sub when you guys were 2-0 down. I don't know if he changed the tide of things, but do you think there's any chance we can see the Dele Alli of old?
He for sure changed the game. I think when he came on against Crystal Palace, he was positive, and he's still young too. I think he's 24, 25, which it seems crazy because he's been around for years.
Yeah.
If we can get 60, 70% of what he was when he was in his prime, I guess at Spurs, he's going to be valuable to us. He could be the guy who fills in, the gap left by Richarlison goals wise. We know he's, decent in the area, and he's got a few good assets. He's good in the air. He kind of gets into those scoring positions. So excited for Dele Alli. I think it's just his commitment that might be an issue. But I think Lampard is a big fan, so willing to give him a chance. But yeah, it depends how I think he's how Ali fits in. I think is dependent on the formation Lampard plays. I think if he plays a 5 at the back, I can't see him playing as much. If he plays a 4-3-3, I think he might get more of a chance to play as one of those 3 centre midfielders.
Okay, interesting. What about these full-back options? Nathan Patterson came in from Rangers. Again, didn't get a chance to make an impact, then got injured when he was finally fit. Now, with the injury to Coleman, started the season, and obviously Coleman needs to kind of hang up his boots or at least hang up one boot. He's right. Getting to that age, right? Do you think we're going to see more of Patterson now start of the season, or for the rest of the season even?
Yeah, I think he's gonna start the season as the first choice right wing back if we play 5 at the back. He came in last season, paid a decent amount of money for him, some good reports from Rangers regarding him, and then I think he played 45 minutes against Boreham Wood in the FA Cup, and then he got injured, missed the rest of the season. But he looks okay going forward. Maybe a little bit not great defensively. The Arsenal game, he had a bit of a tough time against Gabriel Martinelli, but Martinelli's a decent player.
Yeah.
So
very much so.
He won't be the only fullback he gives problems to this year. So he looked good the other day. He I think set up 2 goals against Blackpool. Seems like he's got bundles of energy getting up and down that right hand side. So he might eventually be a perfect fit for that right wing back role. So I think Lampard's definitely going to give him his chance this season.
Okay, brilliant. And now let's round things off in January with Mykolenko. He was, I would say, the one that had the most impact out of the group of players that we talked about, right? And also had some very clutch moments, right? Scoring that goal as well, that we kind of mentioned a few minutes ago. Do you think he's going to play a big part as well moving forward? And do you think you'd consider him as maybe the most viable Fantrax assets out of the ones we've listed?
Out of the, I think out of the ones we've listed from the January transfers, I think Mykolenko's going to be the one who maybe plays the most. He's going to be the most, kind of permanent fixture in the team.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be maybe relying on points-wise. He might be relying on a bit of more defensively. He's not as good going forward as what Luca Dean was. But he scored on Sunday too against Blackpool.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe he's improving a little bit going forward. Maybe they've been working on that. You've got 2 top left-backs at the club and on the coaching staff in Leighton Baines and Ashley Cole. So who better to learn off? So he might be a bit better going forward this year, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gets some returns, some assists or some goals.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's going to be him and Patterson too. Maybe might surprise a few fantasy points wise.
Okay. All right, let's quickly move on to the summer window, the most recent one, the one that we're living in currently. So some of the out names, right? You can quickly say, oh, well, wasn't really we're not gonna miss him, or obviously big part. And I mean, some of them are gonna be obvious, right? Richarlison, it's obvious, off to Spurs,
huge loss, yeah,
huge loss, right?
Yeah.
John Joe Kenny,
I think would have been good cover, but ultimately not good enough. So maybe not too fussed about losing him.
Okay. What about Joao Virginio?
Again, we got goalkeeper wise. I don't think he would have made much of an impact. Pickford is a pretty much a mainstay in the team.
Okay, so I'm gonna race through these names, and I feel like only one of them is gonna be kind of relevant. Harry Tyrer, Ryan Astley, Tyler Onyango, and Jared Branthwaite.
Yeah, Branthwaite is probably the one who's got the most potential there for me. The one who's probably made the most first team appearances. I kind of excited for him. He's gone to PSV on loan, so I think he could learn a lot there. If he's playing week in, week out. I think Lampard is happy with the amount of centre defenders we have at the club, so good for him to go out and get some regular playing time. So again, but none of those though I don't think are going to be leave a hole in the team.
Okay, now let's move on to the ins. Ruben Van Gray coming from Sporting on loan. Is he just going to be backup? Because I feel like he's good enough to start for you guys.
He probably, I think, is definitely going to come in as backup. Having a bit of competition in that area is not a bad thing. And I think if we didn't bring someone in as competition, if Mykolenko did get injured, we'd be struggling. We'd probably end up playing Ben Godfrey at left back again, which I don't think is his most ideal position.
Yeah.
So definitely a bit of competition. Again, I think he's someone who can play as a left back and a left wing back, which is important if Lampard's going to switch between these two roles this season, these two formations.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, James Tarkowski, big name coming in from Burnley. You've got to be excited because you guys have been crying out for a proper centre back.
Yeah, no. From what I've seen of him so far, definitely going to be a starter for us. Was a bit nervous about signing another centre defender from Burnley after Michael Keane.
Yeah.
So, but so far so good. Definitely going to be starting. Being kind of impressed by how he is on the ball. Wasn't expecting that. Coming from someone, coming from Burnley, where he didn't kind of get that, ball playing football much, so impressed of how good he is with his feet. Definitely going to be a starter for Everton this season if he stays fit.
Okay. And finally, the most recent one that I believe came in today, Dwight McNeil as well from Burnley.
Yep, again, I think he's good signing, pretty versatile across that midfield, good energy. Unsure of where he's going to fit in if we play similar to Dele Alli, if we play a 5 at the back, maybe he's going to occupy one of the wing spots along with Anthony Gordon, I'd imagine. But yeah, if we play the 4-3-3, I think he's definitely got more of a chance of playing. But yeah, good signing, young, doesn't kind of, goal scoring has been a bit, not really there for him. And the assist, I think he got 1 assist last year and no goals. But fantasy wise, he puts up the points.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's a good sign if not relying on goals and assists.
For sure. Awesome. Now let us go into expected formation, starting 11. All these ins and outs, there's been a lot of chop and change at Everton these past few weeks, let's say. How do you think you guys are going to line up then?
After these 3 pre-season games that we've played so far, I think Lampard, especially the first game against Chelsea, is going to go to the 5-4-1, I feel. I think he'll obviously Pickford is going to be playing the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Right wing back probably Patterson, and then if everyone's fit, 3 centre backs are probably going to be Tarkowski, Yerry Mina, and probably Ben Godfrey, I'd say. And then left wing back is going to be Mikolenko. And then across the midfield, this is a tough one really, because I feel the centre midfield is massively up for grabs. I think Anthony Gordon will definitely occupy either the left midfield or right midfield role.
Mm-hmm.
And I think definitely one of the centre midfielders will be Decore. But then where the other two spots are kind of up for grabs. Damari Gray is in contention. McNeil could occupy that right wing spot. And then Alex Iwobi too, who, did
Keep
really well under Lampard. Right, yeah, so maybe he might occupy the middle of midfield with Decore. I don't know if that's enough cover against someone like Chelsea. So pre-season he's been playing Tom Davis quite a bit. I don't know if Tom Davis is kind of the quality standard we're looking for. And then, we have other Gabamin we've mentioned, and Allen, not a huge fan of Allen. I don't know if Lampard is either. He hasn't played much in the pre-season, didn't play much towards the end of last season. Seems a bit slow for me, and not agile enough for the Premier League. And then, of course, up front, Calvert Lewin picks himself.
Yeah. So now that Richarlison has left, I would assume Calvert Lewin is nailed for penalties then.
I'd imagine so. Yeah, I think even before Calvert Lewin got injured last year, he scored 2 penalties, I think, in his first 3 Premier League games last year. So, and that was with Richarlison on the pitch. So I think he was on penalties anyway. I think it stuck with Richarlison towards the end because he scored a couple of, his last few. And I think Calvert Lewin missed one against Brighton when he came back. So, yeah, I'd say Calvert Lewin's probably nailed on for the penalties.
Okay, brilliant. So now let's kind of talk about the impacts of the 5 subs, the World Cup. Which side of the fence do you kind of sit on with the 5 subs, right? The fact that, okay, it's going to help my club, or this is purely just for the big European clubs?
It's from my point of view, it's purely for the big European clubs. They are playing more games, but it's a bit different when Man City are bringing on Foden, Grealish, Mahrez, and we're bringing on, Tom Davis, Rondon, I feel like, I'm okay with the 5 subs rule if there's some kind of rule implemented where, 2 of the 5 have to be academy products. That kind of stuff. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's purely for the big clubs. The managers who are moaning about it, Klopp,
Klopp moans about so many things, man.
Klopp moans about, either he'd start a fight in a phone box, Klopp, on his own. He's just he's not my type of guy, but he was the big kind of advocate for it, and whatever he wants, I don't. So that just kind of helped me make my decision a little easier. But I think it's definitely gonna benefit the big clubs more.
Okay. So the World Cup, you guys have assets going off to the Qatar?
I don't think we have many. Off the top of my head, Pickford and maybe Calvert Lewin.
Okay, maybe.
If he can, get fit. I know he was pretty much in there as backup to Kane in the Euros last year after having a good season. I think if he can rediscover that form, he might be a shoo-in again. I think he offers a little bit more than your Watkins and your Callum Wilsons. So yeah, I think mainly just those 2. I know Ukraine didn't qualify, and I don't think we have anyone else who's probably good enough either to play for the country or the country's not qualified. So
okay,
yeah,
fair enough. All right, let's move on now to the fan favorite segment, the draft portion of the podcast. Who's your first pick from Everton? I feel like it's obvious.
Yeah, first pick for me would be Calvert Lewin.
Yeah,
100%. I think he, in the first 3 games last year, he did score in each one, but he was I think averaging around 20 points a game.
Yeah.
The aerials are a big thing. If he, so he's going to be the main guy. He's going to be on penalties.
Yeah.
He's probably going to play every minute possible. The downside of him is a little bit he has been picking up little injuries here and there. Didn't play at Blackpool on Sunday because he precautionary precautionary injury, so that might be a little bit of a downside. I kind of hope they don't kind of stop him from playing.
Mm-hmm.
So if he plays, you saw with him the season before last and the start of last season what he can do fantasy-wise. So yeah, Carver Lewin would be my first pick, definitely.
Yeah, 2021 season, he was averaging 12.5 points per game, default scoring over 400 Fantrax points. I mean, even when he came back from injury, when he was trying to, keep the club up, I mean, it's a very, very tiny reference, but 37, give me 37, give me 38. He amassed like over 50 fantasy points. He was basically scoring over 17 per game, and he amassed 31 aerials, which was the first of all players out there, right? So we know how much of an aerial machine he can be. So
yeah, he's got a leap on him for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's half a point for an aerial, but if you win in 12 of them, those 6 points might be the difference.
Banking ghost points like nothing. Okay, who are your next 3 picks?
So my next 3 picks from Everton would be Anthony Gordon. I think he fantasy wise put up some good numbers last year. He had a lot of set pieces, and he's definitely a favourite of Lampard's. How we saw Lampard play, take a shine to Mason Mount at Chelsea.
Yeah,
I feel like Anthony Gordon is the equivalent at Everton. So yeah, last season, he again not too many goals and assists, but some weeks he'll put up double figures without a goal or assist. So if he can find his goal scoring touch this year, he might be a decent asset to the team.
Yeah, that's a great shout because if you look at the data of last season from when Frank Lampard came in, which was January 31st, Anthony Gordon is the top scoring Everton Fantrax asset with 157.5 points, right? I think second highest for key passes with 23 of them. So definitely in Frank Lampard's favorite books. I'm just curious, before we kind of move on with all the remaining 3 picks, where would you be drafting DCL right now?
DCL, I think, would go, I'd probably say around round 5, maybe.
Okay.
I wouldn't be against picking him ahead of the likes of Callum Wilson.
Yeah.
I think he kind of offers Newcastle a similar team, maybe a little better. Callum Wilson's got, I think, definitely more injury problems than what Carver Lewin's had.
Yeah.
I think in my home league he went the end of round 3 in my home league. Yeah.
Wow, that's super early.
Was pretty high up, yeah. So he went before Watkins, Antonio, Eriksen.
That's crazy. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Damn. I'd probably go Watkins, Eriksen, DCL, then Antonio, because Antonio has his injury issues as well, right? And now that West Ham have signed Skamaka, etc. Yeah.
Well, Antonio, he played a lot of games last year for Antonio, so can he do that again this season? I'm not too sure.
Exactly. Okay, I'm back to Anthony Gordon quickly before we move on. Which round are you going to be drafting him in?
I'd probably say it similar, round 5, 6, 7, around that area. I think if you can get him around round 7, he would be that. I think that'll be decent value. He went round 6 in our draft, so he went around the Michael Olise, Marcus Rashford area, which I think is probably about fair value.
Yeah. So your preseason games, who's been taking the corners for you guys?
I think it's Gordon's been taking a few of them. Damari Gray, when he plays, takes some set pieces.
Yeah.
And Mikolenko, I think, was taking some simply because he's left-footed. I think that there'll be few and far between now that McNeil's in. I think he might take over any left-footed set pieces. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So who's your second out of the 3 picks?
So the second one is going to be Tarkowski.
Okay.
Put up very good numbers at Burnley. I feel maybe a different style of play at Everton, but I think he's still going to be having to do a bit of defensive work hopefully we don't concede 66 goals again this year. So that'll be that'll be about that'll be nice. So I think, and he's gonna play. As I said before, if he's fit, he's gonna play.
Yeah.
So whether it's two centre backs or three centre backs, he's going to be a starter. So I think he's going to put up some good numbers. And Michael Keane, when he played last year, put up some okay numbers.
Yeah.
So maybe Tarkowski might beat that.
Yeah, I mean Tarkowski over the last 5 seasons has scored at least 325, let's say, Fantrax points.
Right. Yep.
Basically averaging 9.5 points per game, right? He's even gone as high as like 12 points per game. And I agree. He's going to have his work cut out for him in that Everton backline, clearing as much as possible for them, right? Which round would you be drafting him in then?
Him, because he's a defender. Maybe a little later. Again, like I wouldn't take him before Gordon. I'd probably go round 7, maybe 8. Yeah. I think he's good value for a defender, but we'll have to see how we are. Maybe we're not as watertight at the back as what Burnley were, so that might impact his scoring this year. So I'd probably take him around round 7, probably around the likes of, I don't know, defender-wise, Gabriel maybe from Arsenal. I think he might score similar points.
But Gabriel is fucking terrible at the ghost points. Like, why are people drafting him so early? I don't get that one.
I think people might just be trying to thinking Arsenal might keep some more clean sheets this year with a more solid back four maybe. But I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't touch him.
Yeah, agreed. All right, and who's the final of the 3 picks?
Final one for me was, so I picked him before McNeil signed. So I put Demarai Gray.
Okay.
But I think it could be Demarai Gray or McNeil.
Okay.
We spoke before about McNeil. His points were pretty good last season without any goals or assists. Well, one assist, sorry. Demarai Gray, get some good points. Dribbles, key passes, might be on some set pieces. Had a good goal scoring touch for a little bit last year. Whether his playing time might be affected by McNeil coming in, so that might drop him a little bit. But I'd say one of those two would be good value. Like if you can get them.
Yeah, I mean, before Frank Lampard came in, Demarai Gray was basically Benitez's favorite kid, He was the highest Fantrax scorer for Everton, 200 points, averaging around 10.5 points per game. I think he was also second highest for key passes before Frank Lampard came in. I mean, he obviously saw more rotation once Frank came in, etc. He wasn't like as nail of a first choice, but, you see that potential in him, right, of how explosive and useful of an asset he can be. And we all know about Dwight McNeil, right? Regardless, don't look at just the maybe just the pure attacking returns, because he was playing for a team like Burnley, right? But if he can maintain that ghost level points and then on top of that get attacking returns, I think you've got a fucking amazing asset on your hands. All right, let's move on to hidden gems. Do you have one? Do you have two? Like, what do you have up your sleeve?
So I wrote down a couple. I got 3 or 4 of them. So
I'd love to hear them.
But my main one is Alex Iwobi.
Yes.
Definitely, Lampard's definitely a fan. Came in last year. When Lampard came in, I think he averaged almost 9 points a game. Which was, I think, up there with Richarlison and Anthony Gordon.
Yes.
Very
highest
positive.
Key passes as well with 27.
Doesn't get didn't score many goals either. So I think he might definitely be a good one for goals points. So Iwobi's my first one. Again, playing time might be depending on the formation again. So that might be one to keep an eye on. But if he plays, he might be good like a midfielder to get you some goals points.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. Iwobi was one of those assets that I picked up as soon as I saw. I was like, what are these points that are coming out of nowhere? And he wasn't even playing like as one of the attacking options, right? He was, I think, one of the number 8s that was feeding the front 3. So yeah, his route to points were just amazing, and yeah, I'm hoping he can produce some of the same moving forward. What are the other ones that you have then?
So the other ones I picked were the wing backs, so Patterson and Mykolenko. Again, we touched on them a little bit before. Patterson, I think, will offer some good points going forward. If he can get some key passes, Carver Lewin can stay fit. He's got a target to aim for. And, you get points for successful crosses. And if it ends up being a shot on goal, obviously it's a key pass too. So that might outweigh the goals we are going to concede. So same for Mykolenko. I think Mykolenko might maybe get a few more defensive goals points. But again, yeah, in pre-season, he scored a goal, scored towards the end of last season playing as a wing-back. So I think those two could be sneaky pickups, really. Might see a bit more from them this year.
Okay. Who else?
And then my last one was Dele Alli.
Okay.
So, again, if he can read it, it's a lot of ifs and buts, but
yeah,
if he can rediscover that old form, finds his spot in the team, doesn't give Lampard a reason to drop him, he could be, it might be a little more goal and assist dependent, but I think he could be an asset. I mean, I wouldn't pick him up in any early rounds of the draft, of course. He might be like a late wild card pickup.
Mm-hmm.
But, one to watch out for, maybe.
Okay, excellent. Now, before we move on to our final segment, do you have any other tidbits that you want to drop asset-wise, Fantrax-wise?
In regards to Everton or just in general?
Yeah, I mean, if you want general, but specifically Everton, is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I think, we covered a lot of it. The main players who are gonna make an impact. I think there might be some more incomings coming in. There's rumours about Ross Barkley coming back to the club.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, might be one to look out for. I picked him up in one of my leagues just in case.
Okay.
So he's put out some decent points before on Fantrax. So might be one to look out for. And I think maybe looking at some other players, some other incomings. I think there'll definitely be some incomings. So maybe some players who are nailed on in the team right now might not be as much anymore, especially in the centre midfield area. I'd say maybe some outgoings. So we'll have to wait and see if there's any worthwhile fantasy assets worth picking up.
All right, interesting. I mean, we could talk a little general quickly if you want. Like you said, you've already drafted one of your leagues, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
How did that go? What pick number were you?
So it's a 12-man league, and I was pick number 3.
Yeah. So who was your first pick?
I took Harry Kane.
Excellent. Nice.
Yeah,
excellent pick.
I had a feeling I was going to get him or Son, and Son went second, so I took Kane. I was pretty happy with that to get a top striker on the board early on.
Yeah, because strikers are very rare this season, I find.
Yeah, and it's you rolled the dice a little bit, I think, with Haaland's quality, but coming over to the Premier League, Nunes, they might be great, but Ronaldo potentially leaving, didn't really have too much. Chelsea don't really have a main striker. So
I don't know what the hell we have, man.
Forwards were definitely few and far between. So I was always going forward for my first pick. I feel De Bruyne was still there, but I passed on him and took Kane.
That's a brave call.
Was a brave call. Yeah. One I might live to regret.
Who knows, right? De Bruyne also has his fair share of injuries, and we've got a Winter World Cup, so who knows what's gonna happen.
Yeah, he's going to be playing a lot of games this year.
Yeah.
Well, same as Kane too, but I just hope he stays fit.
Yeah, hopefully, man. Well, I wish you the best of luck moving forward. So now let's move on to our final segment, trading assets. So, how long have you been playing for like Fantrax or Togo, whatever? Like,
we first started, I think, maybe around the 2015-16 season.
Oh wow, nice.
For a few years now, we kind of got bored of the official Fantasy Premier League.
Yeah, I get that.
Towards the end of the season, everyone has the same players, and
yeah.
So we found this draft alternative. And yeah, we've been playing ever since. We've now got a solid group of 12 guys who play. Some are in the UK, most of them are in the States. And yeah, it's pretty competitive. You know, there's some game weeks where it can get a little hot, and you know,
so the banter is real.
Some crosswords are said, yeah. So
yeah.
And then so we've been playing for about 7 years now, maybe.
Yeah. Excellent. Wow, that's awesome. All right, well then I'm excited to hear what you have to say about your advice when it comes to trading. Do you look at form? Do you look at fixtures? Do you do 1-for-1, 2-for-1 trades? What's your secret sauce, Matthew?
I try and do, you know, as everyone else, I feel like you try and do the 2-for-1, and you try and give 2 mediocre players for a decent player, and then pick someone up off the waiver wire, essentially.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're the hardest trades to do. I much prefer to maybe look at fixtures or form. I like to try and trade out someone who's, you know, maybe on a bit of top form, knowing it won't last. See if there's any takers. But yeah, mainly like a 1-for-1. Try and look at other people's teams to see if they have like double team midfielders or double team strikers, and see if I can use that to kind of get a deal somewhere. But yeah, I'm seen as the one in our league as the one who sends the bad trades. So
I swear our last few fan correspondents have all said that exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, why do I keep finding all the baddies? Like,
right? Yeah. No. I mean, I send what I think's fair, but you know, someone's opinion. You know, everyone has an opinion. So yeah. They then decide I'm the devil and don't want to trade with me. So
is it because you've also won your league multiple times?
Yeah, well, I won our playoffs, not last season, but the 2 seasons before that. I finished first 1 year too. Yeah. So it all started a few years ago when it was probably 2017 maybe. Yeah. When Iheanacho still played for Manchester City, and Aguero was injured and he was playing some games. And my good friend Grant sent me a trade offering me Christian Eriksen for Iheanacho 1-for-1.
Wow.
So of course I took that, you know.
Yeah.
Ever since then I got a bad reputation, and I just pressed accept, you know. So trade wise, I think it's looking at form. I like to try and trade out a player who's in top form. Yeah. Thinking it won't last, and I like to look at the fixtures too. If anyone's got some like decent fixtures coming up, or if anyone's got some terrible fixtures coming up, I'll try and get them out and get someone else in.
All right, sounds great. Well, listeners, that's all we had planned to talk about. Matthew, this has been a fantastic discussion. Really appreciate your time coming on, chatting everything Everton. Is there any final pieces of advice or anything you want to drop for the listeners before we sign off?
Thank you for having me on. You know, enjoyed talking about fantasy and Everton. So we'll be giving you guys a listen throughout the season. I haven't got much else to say except up the toffees and hopefully a bit better than last season.
For sure, man. Wishing you, your club, your fantasy team, all the success this season. Yeah, can't wait to see what we're in store for. Listeners, so that's it. I think the next episode, I haven't scheduled it yet, but we recently got in contact, I think, with the Brighton fan. So we'll see. We've still got a few more clubs knocking around that we need to complete. I think there's like 4 or 5 more, but yeah, listen, if we haven't got anyone until then, we'll try to get as much of the content out as possible. If you're hearing this and you've not completed your draft, slide into our DMs if you have any questions. Always happy to do a mock. We've been Twitch streaming a few mock drafts recently. We might be doing that tonight, but obviously you're not going to be hearing this in time because I'm releasing everything fucking late. So whatever. Wishing you the best of everything. And like Ross always says, just have fun, enjoy yourself, enjoy the season, enjoy the football that's coming to us over the next few months or whatever. But yeah, until then, peace.